Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are going to discuss the Season 3 episode of the show titled Rain. But before we get to talking about this week's Supergirl episode, we need to get to the news. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers Television has cut all its ties with Andrew Kreisberg following sexual harassment claims from multiple women involving the showrunner. The studio launched an internal investigation into the accusations, which has resulted into Kreisberg having been terminated from Supergirl, The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow, as well as CWC's Vixen, and he has lost his overall deal with the studio. Greg Berlanti has assumed additional responsibilities on both The Flash, where he will work closely with executive producer / co-showrunner Todd Helbing, and Supergirl, where he will work closely with executive producers / co-showrunners Robert Rovner and Jessica Queller. So we just wanted to make everyone aware of that because we had talked about how those allegations had come up, and this is what has resulted in it. So if you wanted to keep up with that news, that's what has gone down. So we will continue to follow this if there are any more developments, but it looks like Andrew Kreisberg has left Supergirl. All right, well, there's some of that awkward / bad news that we needed to cover, but that's all the news that we have for this episode. So let's get into some happier, more fun things to talk about. Morgan, let's get into the discussion of the Season 3 episode titled Rain. So here is the official description. Quote, Supergirl investigates a mysterious symbol popping up all over National City, tracing its origins back to an ancient prophecy and the mark of the world killer Rain. Meanwhile, the tension between Lena and Morgan Edge continues to build, causing James to step in and offer up some protection and possibly igniting a spark in the process, unquote. So, since this was the title of this week's episode was Rain, Morgan, what did you think about our first glimpse into seeing Rain in all of her glory? She was causing trouble. She had a costume and a mask. What did you think?
Yeah, she had that costume. She had that mask. Her costume looked a little bit like some Matrix cosplay, so I didn't love it. But I will say, like, with the mask on, I feel like, you know, you always look at Supergirl and you're like, how do you not know that that's Kara? But she did look. I was like, you know what? If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't really know that was the same actress as Sam,
yes,
whose name soon I might not have to remember. But yeah, she looked so different, and that mask was like covered her face a lot, like the distinguishing like characteristics of her face. So you didn't kind of feel like, well, hey, how does she not know that that's her, like her buddy who she was like literally just talking to 3 scenes ago? So I thought that part was good. The rest of the costume I wasn't overly impressed with.
Yeah, no, I can understand. I thought the mask did help. I think it was something that hid her identity a little bit, and her hair being up in sort of a ponytail sort of thing. I don't know.
A very evil ponytail.
A very evil ponytail. I think that helped a little bit because we always see Samantha with her hair down. So that could help things a little bit in terms of disguising her. And she also had a voice modulator somehow.
Oh, yeah. That was weird. I wasn't sure. Was that like a voice modulator or is that like evil Rain's like evil voice? Like, could you? I mean, I kind of hope that it's like not, because I don't know if I could take like a whole season of having that like creepy echo every time she speaks. Like, it might get to be a little bit much. Like, if she's monologuing, you're just gonna be like, no, stop it, it's too much.
Well, that brings me to a question that I had through most of the episode, and I was wondering what your thoughts on this are, because I was confused over whether or not Samantha was controlled by Rain, or was she able to control Rain? Are they two separate entities? Have they become one? Is Samantha blacking out and Rain takes over? What do you think is happening there?
I got the impression that it was a thing where like Samantha was blacking out and Rain was taking over, but I was getting the impression that like as she blacked out more and more, Rain was taking over more and more. Because it seemed like at the end of the episode, like, I don't know, spoiler alert, maybe, I don't know. You should watch the episode before listening to this. Just, important service announcement. But at the end, it seemed like she was gone. Like when Ruby comes downstairs for Christmas and she is still in her, her goth outfit. I feel like that's it. Like that's like Rain has kind of taken over, because I don't think that Sam would ever let Ruby see her like that. So I think that if there was like, Sam might still be in there somewhere, but I think Rain is in the driver's seat now.
Well, I don't think she would let Ruby see her like that, but I don't think, well, see, it makes me think of the beginning of the episode. So it's kind of interesting the way that they bookended this episode with Samantha and Ruby, which I think is some pretty good writing. So at the beginning of the episode, Sam wakes up from a terrible nightmare, which I didn't really understand what that first shot of the episode was. I didn't know if that was something Samantha was dreaming. Was it something that had already happened? Is it going to happen in the future? I don't know. Is it even important? I don't know, because there were things that I didn't understand what was happening. There was this one shot before she wakes up, and it's like there's these, it almost looks like two instances of heat vision. I don't know, like two red lines, and then there's like this ship that flies over it. Like, I didn't know what was happening there. I was very confused. But she wakes up and Ruby's like, hey, did you have a good time in your trip? And Samantha's like, I didn't take a trip. What are you talking about? So I think Sam probably wouldn't know if things were happening that she didn't want to happen. Like, I don't know. I'm very, very confused about that. So you do think that Rain has taken over by the end of the episode?
From the impression that I was getting, and I could be completely off, but it seemed to me like Rain was getting more after she went on that like trip and found out Rain kind of got unlocked. I think it was just Rain was starting to like slowly just take over more and more and more until the end of the episode, which is when I assume that like Rain is kind of like, if Samantha's still in there, she's like in there. Like Rain is like, nope, it's my time to shine.
The way they presented it, it definitely came across like that. I don't know if they'll pull one over on us when the show comes back and be like, hey, just kidding, really, this is Samantha and they're gonna celebrate Christmas. Yeah, maybe they'll turn around and Samantha has like the mask off and she's just like taking down the high ponytail and she's like, I'm not evil now. And I got you a puppy. So that could happen. But I think the more interesting thing to do with that, if I was a storyteller, I would want to see how Ruby reacted to seeing Rain. I think that's the more interesting thing to do. And especially since they bookended the episode with that moment contrasting to the moment at the beginning of the episode when Sam and Ruby are together and they're like, hey, we're going to go, I guess, bake some pancakes. And it's like a really fun, nice little moment between mother and daughter. And so I think that would be a good contrast to see what would happen if that bond was broken. And so I think that's a strong possibility that maybe Rain has taken over. And especially since throughout the episode, it seemed to get worse. Like you were saying, like she was taking out some thugs. She tried to manhandle Morgan Edge. And then she inevitably, spoiler alert, beats up Supergirl. So, and puts Supergirl in some pretty life-threatening situations there. So we'll have to see what happens to Kara. But I guess that leads me into asking you, Morgan, what did you think about the showdown between Supergirl and Rain?
Yeah, I thought the fight scene was incredible. I thought that they did such a good job with that fight scene, especially like sometimes watching these like super powered people like slug it out can get a little bit like, okay, now he threw him into a building. Now she threw her into another building. This is really exciting. And, like it can get a little tiring. You're just like, oh, I've seen it. They're flying. They're falling into buildings. So I like that the way that they mixed it up with having like different settings, like when they were in the office with the Christmas party and all the like the Christmas music. I thought that added like a touch of humor to it. But like the way that they were fighting was like really brutal, and the fact that Rain is a match for Supergirl, I think makes it really interesting because it almost kind of brings the fighting down to a more human level. Whereas usually, you know, Supergirl's like flying around or she's using her like heat vision and this was just like a brawl. Like this was just them fighting like hand-to-hand combat because Rain is on the same level, if not more powerful than Supergirl. So seeing Supergirl get actually hurt and like actually bleeding, I think it was like, I was watching it like, oh my God, she's got a cut on her head. Like, this is really bad.
Yeah, it really raised the stakes for her to be hurt. And I had some questions about that because I was like, well, I think the show has only really said that kryptonite can lead to her bleeding, but maybe if she's going up against another Kryptonian, that can cause it. Obviously, I would guess magic could also lead to her bleeding. So I was really shocked by the fact that she was bleeding. But that made she even was bruised. I think there at the very end, I was like, dang, she's even got like black eyes and all sorts of stuff going on her face.
And when she was like lying on that pile of rubble, it looked like Rain had burned the S shield off of her Supergirl uniform.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Which I was like, maybe it was just because it was dark where I was watching it.
I'll have to go back and look at that.
It looked like her, because I think that she did hit her with like some heat vision at one point. So I don't know. It was a brutal fight scene. I really liked it. I thought that they did a great job with all the fight choreography.
Yeah, to me, I thought that some of the punches didn't quite land. Some of the stunt punches, I was like, well, they could have been a little more convincing with that. But they were really slugging each other. Like, I did think that was really interesting, that of all the things that they could do, they have all these special powers, heat vision, flying, all of that kind of stuff, you know, super breath. And what they mostly chose to do during that fight was punch the crap out of each other. I thought that was really interesting because I think that makes it more personal. Because some of those things like I'm talking like these are real things, but you know, super breath and heat vision, you can be a good distance away from somebody and still affect them. But a punch is something you have to do up close and personal. And you have to actually connect to the person in order to physically harm them. So they are getting really intimate and in their faces with these punches. And I thought that was very impactful, just on a note of being personal and being really really trying to get in each other's faces, literally. So I thought that their fight was a good one because it did try to go that extra mile and make it, as like you were saying, as brutal as possible. And I think that having read the New 52 that Rain is in, the volume that she is in, there's a big fight in the city that they have this, Supergirl and Rain have this big fight. And so I think that the show tried to live up to that. And I think for the most part, for me, I think it succeeded. They were in different locations. They came back to the city and, scuffed up the street like they do in the comic. So I thought it was good. They did have a little humor in there, which I thought was appropriate. I didn't think it was too unnecessary. Like they were going through a Christmas party, so it would make sense that Christmas music would be playing there. So I didn't mind that too much, because normally I would be like, oh, don't put humor in here, and like this is a serious thing. But I think for the scene that it was in, it made sense, and it definitely raised the stakes by the end. And I was really happy to see that it mattered. Like it was a big deal that Supergirl falls down and falls into the streets, and everybody is so concerned. I really, really liked that. And the one moment I thought was like awesome for Supergirl, even though she didn't win this fight, was there was a moment where I guess Rain has some sort of like, I don't know if it's part of the street or part of a car. I don't know what she was hitting her with. It was some big thing that she was holding, and she tries to sling it at Supergirl, and Supergirl stops it with her arm.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, you didn't win that fight, but you won that moment. That was pretty great. And I love that moment before the fight too, where Alex grabs Supergirl, and she's like, I've been telling you, like, this whole time that you should embrace your human side and come back to like humanity, but not now, like be all Kryptonian, because I'm so worried about it. And I think that really, like, because it was prior to the fight, it really ratcheted up the tension. Like you were really like, oh, this is serious. Like Alex is basically telling her, like, put your humanity aside for now, because this is going to be bad. And like, I think it kind of got you prepared for how bad and like how brutal that fight was going to be. Yeah, I think Alex realized that if this is a Kryptonian, this is somebody who can go toe to toe with Kara. And I think that made her realize, hey, something bad could happen to Kara. And I do like that they brought up the humanity aspect of it. And she even said something to be like, you need to be cold. You need to be alien to fight her. So I thought that was interesting, because normally Supergirl tries to talk someone down before beating them up.
Yeah.
And I think Supergirl tried to ask her questions and figure out what was going on, but Rain wasn't having any of it. So that is a little bit different. Supergirl didn't even get a really good chance to try to talk her out of it, because Rain was she already had her mind made up that she was just going to cause trouble, and that she had a purpose. So, all of that was really, really good. I was curious, Morgan, because we saw your friend Chad Lowe again in this episode.
Chad Lowe!
our favorite cult leader, Supergirl cult leader. So what did you think about seeing him again, and what he had to say to Kara?
Yeah, I think when he showed up on the screen, I was like, Chad Lowe! I guess I wasn't looking at like the cast at the bottom, so I wasn't expecting him. And so when he popped up, I was like, what? I like that they brought him back, because I had kind of forgotten, I hadn't forgotten that he was in the season, but I kind of had forgotten that episode. Like I kind of forgot that he was knocking around being crazy. And then so when she gets a call from the prison, I felt like it could have been anybody. She's put a lot of people in prison.
That's true.
And then she goes down there, and of course it's our favorite cult leader, who has not gotten less creepy in prison, shockingly enough. I know. But I like the way that they used him in this one, actually. I thought it was really clever, and like that the way that they explained it was a little bit like, oh, okay, really? But you know what? I'll go with it. I was fine. I was fine with that he somehow knew more about Kryptonians than Kara, a Kryptonian. Obviously we need a chance for Chad Lowe to mansplain Kryptonian to Supergirl. But yeah, because I was like, really? How do you know, dude? And then he was like, hold on, let me explain.
Well, I did like his explanation, because it's something that I've thought about quite a bit, because he talked about the quote, forgotten from Fort Roz. And I was like, yes, why has nobody talked about those other aliens that probably escaped from Fort Ross and no one knows where they are now?
They have been quite forgotten by this show.
I thought it was very, very meta, actually, that they talked about the forgotten.
Kara was just like, you know what? They're going to work themselves out. I have faith in them.
They're just going to get jobs and live their lives. It's going to be fine.
They've been rehabilitated. They learned to trade in Fort Ross, probably.
I mean, Fort Ross was supposed to be like the worst of the worst.
I know.
And it crashes, and some of them escape, and nobody knows. They were almost treated like Jeremiah. Like, we know they're out there somewhere, but we're not really going to bother to go find them.
Maybe they're all with Jeremiah. Wouldn't that be the twist?
Maybe they have either they have taken Jeremiah in because they feel bad for him, or maybe Jeremiah has just gathered a bunch of them together, and he's like, we're just going to create a community of forgotten characters.
Forgotten characters. He's like, you all care about me, right?
So I don't know. I bought it just because I was like, thank you for mentioning the other aliens from Fort Ross.
The forgotten of Fort Ross.
So I'm willing to go with it just for that. But yeah, it was interesting. They did justify it because they talked about how he had met a disgraced Kryptonian priestess who told him all about the god before Ra. And all of this stuff, these prophecies, and I thought I was eating it up because I was like, oh, there's a lot of Kryptonian history that were being thrown into our faces, and I have so many things I need to write down about it.
And then he pulls out a book all in Kryptonese and quickly moves the pages so that you have all of the translating to do. That's gonna be his next appearance.
I'm sure that when he writes things down, he writes it all in Kryptonian and in Kryptonese. He's just left English long ago, and he has just now adopted that as his new written language. But yeah, he had all those prophecies and knew all about Rain and when she was going to come and what the signs were. And I thought that was really cool. And some of the language and the way that the script was written, I thought was really nice because for me, I'm a Christian, so I kind of see these things when they pop up. And they borrowed a lot out of Christian scripture. They talked about the end of days. They talked about the devil. They talked about the mark of the beast and all this kind of stuff. And while I was watching it, I was like, if you're going to throw all of this stuff out, if Supergirl does not do a Christ pose by the end of this episode, what are we even doing here?
Why are we here?
Why are we here? And then when she fell off the building and landed in the concrete, I was like, thank you.
And we've come around full circle.
Yeah. So I was glad that they if they were going to take it there, they took it to its full conclusion. I was very happy about that.
They're like, we're not just going to pick and choose. We're not just going all Mark of the Beast.
They went the full stretch of where that was going to go. I liked that they did talk about the devil quite a bit, and what I thought was really interesting, just because it was something that I was sort of thinking about, was Thomas Coville says to Kara, he says, this is your purpose, to fight the devil. And Kara says, there's no such thing as the devil. And then Kara later, when she interacts with Rain, she says, so you're supposed to be the devil? And Rain says the devil isn't real. And so I just thought that was really interesting, that Kara and Rain seem to dismiss the idea of the devil. And it made me think of The Usual Suspects and the famous quote about the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist, or he did not exist. I don't know if it's a contraction there. But I just thought that was really interesting that they both rejected that. And Rain even says, to Kara as Supergirl, she says, you are no god, just as I'm no devil. And so I thought all of that was really, really cool and really, a great way to make their encounter much grander and much more epic, that it was the battle of God versus the devil, of good versus evil. And I'm the kind of person who eats that up. I love that kind of stuff. So I really I thought it was that was all right up my alley, even down to the point that Rain says to Supergirl, she tells her to stand down or she'll make her join the other people that she had messed with in purgatory. So I was eating all of that up.
Yeah, I really like that line that you mentioned too, where she was like, I'm no devil and you're no God, just because we know that Rain, or at least Samantha, is a good person. So we know that somewhere inside, actually, she's not all bad. And we've seen Kara mess up and be very human. So we know that she's not a god. So I really liked that line particularly, that like there's more shades of gray to both of them than maybe somebody on the outside just watching them just duke it out would think.
That's a great point, because inside them is a little bit of humanity. Even though they're both Kryptonian, they do have a little bit of a human side to them. And that human side can be flawed and can make mistakes and can make bad choices. And that makes me think of a question to ask you, because we know that when Sam and Ruby have that nice little scene where they talk about that Christmas that they were moving to Central City and they had to celebrate Christmas at the truck stop and all that kind of stuff. And then Samantha gives Ruby a Christmas present, and it's the Supergirl S-Shield necklace. And she talks about how they're stronger together. What do you think? I mean, just for speculation's sake, what do you think is going to happen with Samantha and Ruby? Like, do you think that their bond is strong enough to pull I guess, Samantha out of Rain?
I don't know. I think that's one of the interesting things about this storyline this season, is that there's like 4 or 5 ways I could see it going, and maybe it's not any of those ways. Like, I can see like one of them dying, the other one of them dying. You know what I mean? Like, nobody dies. Everybody gets puppies. I mean, I'm really on this puppy kick. You guys, you should get puppies. But no, I think that there's so many different ways that they can play this whole storyline out, and any way that they do it is going to be like very different. Because we've also seen, I think there had been a couple of people maybe who had speculated that like maybe Alex ends up having to take care of Ruby because children and kids have been like a big part of her storyline this season. And I could see that, or I could see maybe something happens to Ruby, and then like basically the only human part of Sam or of Rain, I think, would be kind of gone if anything bad happened to Ruby. So I don't know. I'm really interested to see where they go with it. And I think that was a great cliffhanger to end on, because so much of what happens in the rest of the season, I think, is going to turn on what happens in that relationship.
I think that's very possible, because we've followed their relationship since the very beginning of the season. We've gone through a lot of things with them. I feel like I know them pretty well now. Like I was really into that scene when they talked about that Christmas that they really enjoyed together, and I hate it for them. I hate it for them because Ruby doesn't know what's happening. I don't know if Samantha can control this. It's just one of those things where I'm like, this is terrible. This is terrible for everyone, literally everyone. And it would break my heart if Ruby lost her mom, in some capacity, whether it be as Rain or if she died. But I do think it is a possibility that something does happen to Samantha, and Ruby might get adopted by Alex. Because there was a little moment in this episode where it sort of suggested that, I thought, when they have the holiday party over at Kara's, and Ruby is at the door, and Alex goes to open it, and she sees Ruby there, and she's by herself. And Samantha kind of comes in late. She's got all the cookies or desserts or whatever she brought. I can't remember. But that moment when when Alex opened the door to find Ruby there, I was like, are you trying to foreshadow something? I feel like they might be. I
thought the exact same thing. I was like, ooh.
But I did like that, though, because they did have a little moment, Alex and Ruby together, when Ruby was all excited about asking questions about Supergirl. So I did think that was nice. So a shout out to our listener. I had to go back and look it up because at As Great as Nate is the listener from our episode on The Faithful from earlier this season, who suggested that might happen, that Alex might adopt Ruby. So Shout out to as great as Nate, because I think that might come true.
I think you might be onto something.
I think it might happen. So yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with Samantha, Rain, Ruby, Supergirl. Supergirl is in some trouble, some physical resuscitative kind of trouble. So we'll have to see what happens with her. I would imagine she comes out of it, but I don't know how. That's kind of the question for me. Okay, so we've talked about some of the heavy hitting things in this episode, but then there was also a lot of emotional things that were going on with some of the other characters. And Kara had all that physical stuff that she was dealing with Rain, but then Kara was also dealing with having to be okay with being around Mon-El and Imra. What did you think about all of that? How did she handle it?
I thought she did okay, considering. I felt really bad for her, actually, this episode. I was just like, oh, Kara, you can do better, though. You can do so much better. You're looking at this from the wrong perspective. This is a blessing in disguise. He couldn't even make drinks. He just kept giving you seltzer water. I think she's romanticized that relationship. No, I thought she was handling it, I think, kind of as well as can be expected, because to her it was only a couple months that he's been gone, and then he comes back. He's been gone for many years, and he's married and like happily married. It's clearly been a long time for him. Like Kara is just like a memory kind of to him now. And so I think it was rough for her. And then she meets his new wife, who seems lovely and really nice, which is probably infuriating because you just want to hate her. But then she's like, "Oh, like you've been an inspiration to me," and you just feel for Kara because she's like, "Oh, great. So you're great."
Yeah, it's tough to not like somebody when they are really nice and they have said nice things to you. And they seem like if maybe this wasn't such a bad situation, that maybe you could be friends. Maybe you could be into talking to them. I was trying to think of what that would be like for Kara to have someone that she loved be gone, and then they come back and there's someone completely different. They look different. They have a different life. And how would you deal with that? How would you deal with the fact that they would look at you differently now? I can't imagine that, and it just would be so difficult. And Kara, I think she held it together as well as she could. She was even trying to be gracious, like, "Hey, I'm having a party at my house later if you want to come by." It almost seemed like she was doing it against her will a little bit. Like she knew that she.
I feel like I felt the same relief that she did when he was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, thank God, this poor, like, has she not suffered enough, dude? Just work on your ship."
Yeah, I think she tried to do it out of a way of being cordial with him, but I do think it was probably for the best that they didn't show up, because she did get to have a nice night with her friends and her sister, and until she was taken away to go look at a crop circle, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, she seemed to be trying to deal with it as best she could, but it did bother her, and I was glad that she told Mon-El that she said, "Look, I'm trying to be okay with this, but it's really hard because you look at me differently, and this is very weird for me, and it's very awkward, and your girlfriend wants to talk to me," or your wife, not even girlfriend, wife. They are married. So it's something that I think Kara did the best that she could with the situation. And she even says that, we're all just good people stuck in a really crappy situation. And I think that's the way to look at it, is that nobody wanted to hurt anybody. I do think that maybe Mon-El and Imra could have been a little less obvious about things in the public sphere. Sometimes I was like, well, y'all are kind of ridiculous right now. But that, I guess,
must you?
I guess for several years, who knows how long they've actually been married. But that's probably been the normal way that they interact together. So this is nothing new for them, but it's new for Kara, and it's new for Wynn, and it's new for all of these people. So I definitely did feel terrible for Kara in this episode. But I do, part of me wants to not like Imra too, because I know how much it hurts Kara. But she seems cool. Like, she seems fun. Like, I like her. Like, I think she had some funny lines that she talked about the things that they did in the present.
What's a phone?
What's a phone? She talked about the fact that, it's cute that you eat food with your hands. And I was like, how else do you eat?
Wait, do wings not exist in the future? Because that's not a future I want to go to.
I mean, what do you do, future people? How do you eat? So those were some things that I thought were really fun that she did seem to want. She was in this new time period, so she wanted to discover it and learn as much as she could. And she tried to offer her services as something of a detective to try to help. Like, she was trying to be helpful, and she was trying to. She thought she could make things easier for Kara by trying to talk to her, and so I think she really does care about Kara, and I think she does admire Kara. It's just a really weird situation.
And the one thing I will say that I like so far, fingers crossed, is that they don't seem to be playing it as like a love triangle. Like, they don't seem to, I feel like on a lot of other shows, like towards the end when Kara comes in and she's like really sick, they would have Mon-El like looking like wistfully over, and then they would have the wife looking jealous. And I feel like they kind of avoided that. Again, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know where they're going to go in the rest of the season. I don't want to see a love triangle, though. I hate them. Everyone hates them, I think. And I just, I can't imagine. I don't want to see like a bunch of like people like one person staring jealously at another person, staring jealously at another person, like just an infinite loop of people being jealous at another person. It's like, that's not going to be fun for me.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right. It seemed like they were just all trying to figure this new situation they're in out. Like, I don't think they're really playing it as a love triangle per se as yet. I don't think that that's happening, because even when Supergirl was brought into the DEO after her big fight with Rain and everyone was trying to make sure that she was okay, Imra had this moment with Mon-El where she was like, she's going to be fine. She's going to be okay. Like, I think that that's one of those signs that Imra's not jealous. She's not concerned about herself. She really does care about Kara, and she cares about Mon-El because they're married, but also she knows that Mon-El does care about Kara in a certain capacity. So I didn't see any jealousy there, and Kara didn't seem to be jealous. She just was uncomfortable, I think, with all of it, which is totally understandable. So I'm like you. I hope that they continue to play it that way and not in a love triangle capacity, because I think that doesn't do a good service to any of these characters.
No, I agree. And I think that I like the way that they played it, where it was more about Kara's feelings in this episode. Like, it was more about Kara being upset and being sad and having to deal with watching somebody who she cared about who has moved on and she's not quite there yet, as opposed to watching like a love triangle situation, which I feel like we've seen a million times. This felt like it was more centered on Kara and her feelings than like some overdramatic, like, who's going to end up with who?
Yeah. And I wonder what it will take to really make this okay for Kara. I don't know if it will be for Kara to start a new relationship with someone else. I don't know if it will be becoming friends with Imra. I don't know what's going to help. Eventually something will, I think there almost has to be something that happens to turn the tide with this situation, because they can't continually be this awkward around each other. So I'm very curious as to what will change things in the future and help Kara deal with this, because it is weird.
It's a little uncomfortable.
And speaking of things that made me a little uncomfortable in this episode.
This is my favorite transition.
was the interactions between James and Lena. So Morgan, what did you think about how they were building them up and what James and Lena were up to in this episode?
I just have so many questions. My first question is, how dare you? No, but no, it's. I think one of my big questions is, so I like both actors, and I think that both actors have tremendous chemistry with most other people in the cast. I don't feel that they have chemistry with each other, which is weird. Like, they're pushing this, like, they're like, ooh, like, clearly I've been feeling a vibe there. I'm like, really? I'm not. Like, what vibe? There's no vibe. And I think that could be a function of just how underdeveloped this is. Like, they went from barely ever speaking to each other to having one nice moment in one episode. And now suddenly we're supposed to be like, oh, you know, that vibe that they have. No, I don't. What vibe? What are you talking about? It's like, if you want the fun part of these relationships is usually watching that vibe develop and like watching the relationship start and unfold. And I feel like one of the problems with Supergirl is that they just kind of jump right into the relationship. They're like, okay, they had a moment in one episode, so we can just totally like put them together, right? It's like, well, sure, you could, but that's not the fun part. And also, it's not going to give the audience enough time to like buy into it. I was mostly just so confused in this episode. I was like, so I guess they're going there, but not only are they going there, they are going there hard and immediately. Mm-hmm. They're giving me no time to buy into this at all. And I don't understand why. And it kind of feels like, for me at least, and I've complained about this a lot, is a function of like, how confused they are with what they're going to do with James on this show. Like, we need to talk about James is like a constant problem. Like, they throw him at any storyline they think is going to stick, and it just hasn't worked yet. Like, they just don't know what to do with this character at all. And that's why we got Guardian last season, and that's why we've got almost no Guardian this season, because they were like, that didn't work. And now it seems like they're like, what if he got a love interest? And they're like, who's available and not evil? Okay. It feels like they're paired together because they desperately need something for James to do, and no one liked Guardian. And that's kind of what it feels like to me.
Well, it's funny because the absence of Guardian has made me grow fond of Guardian. When I mean, it's like that old adage says, you know, the absence makes the heart grow fonder. I have grown fonder of Guardian because when he popped up that shield in this week's episode, I was like, hey, that's cool, Guardian's there.
Yeah, me too. I also think it's like a function of like using Guardian when it makes sense to have Guardian. Like, it's like, oh yeah, he would pop up his shield like when being directly attacked, instead of him and Wynn like prowling the streets for like purse snatchers.
That's a good point. It's funny with me, I could be about James and Lena. Like, I think it would be fine. I think it would be something that you could do and explore. But I am with you in the fact that the exciting part of watching a couple on television is seeing them fall in love. Seeing them develop that relationship, because with television you get a chance to expand on that. You get to have that slow build episode by episode by episode, and that's where a lot of the good drama comes in. Like, you hear a lot about the what's it, moonlighting or moonlight or moonlighting. Moonlighting. It has an ing. That like moonlighting curse, which is like you never want to put your couple together because then they're boring, which I don't subscribe to. But there is something to be said about like that lead up to people getting together being exciting and fun to watch. And so you don't normally want to do it in one episode. I guess I could go with it. I guess I could buy it that they would, like you were saying, that they went hard in this episode. Like they kissed and they were, you know, going for it in this episode. But I think that a slower build would have helped me. selfishly. They should have taken more of the time with this relationship just for me. Just for me.
I mean, and for me as well, because I was just like, I feel like if I'm watching a show, I want to be rooting for the couple to get together. And I don't want to be like, huh? Oh, I guess this is happening.
Well, the funny thing is at the holiday party, which I thought it was this is what I thought was forced and why I was really, I was thinking to myself when I was watching the holiday party scene, I was like, this is awkward to watch. It's awkward to watch. It's that moment when Lena's sitting around with Sam and then Kara comes up and they're both like, your chemistry with James off the charts.
That's what I was talking. And like, I don't want to be this person, but like Lena has better chemistry with Kara at this point. Like they have shown us no evidence of that chemistry. And it's also like, it's writing 101 that you show, you don't tell. And this episode literally just had a bunch of people telling the audience, like, this is happening, get on board.
This chemistry, this is a real thing. Y'all need to pay attention.
This chemistry is undeniable. Literally, you can't deny it. It's happening. Just get on board.
I thought that was really awkward and forced. And I thought it was weird that Kara came up and was like, yeah, that chemistry you have with James after I pined for him for a whole season.
Oh my God. I feel like them dropping the Kara and James thing so suddenly with no explanation in season 2 is always just going to be one of those things that like haunts this show. Because it's so weird. It's like she pined for him for a whole year. Remember that? No one does.
But that chemistry with James and Lena, you need to be thinking about that.
It is on fire. And that's like I think that was the thing where they were like, it was literally like Lena looks over at James looks over at Lena, neither of them have any expression on their face, and then Kara pops up and she was like, girl, you could cut the tension with a knife. And I'm like, what tension? She might have been looking at the cheese plate for all she had a reaction. I think she would have been looking at the cheese plate more lovingly. It was just such a strange, like, I love both of these actors, and they're both very charismatic actors who have tons of chemistry, seemingly with everyone but each other at this point. And I think it's because they're kind of been hung out to dry by the writing a little bit, where it's just like, and you're into each other. It's like there's no lead up to it.
Yeah, I will say, even though I wasn't really buying the romance just yet in this episode, I really liked the scenes with Lena and James going to see Morgan Edge.
Oh my God, So those are the scenes where I was like, give me a couple of these scenes, give me a little bit of them bonding, and maybe I'm there.
Yes.
Because just them like kind of doing that like sassy, like, oh, no, like that's not what's happening, and like tag teaming and kind of like, you're disgusting, yes, he's disgusting, and then they like high five and like walk out, like that is something I would watch. But like the rest of it did not work for me. But those scenes where they went to confront him together and they were just like this united front of just this wall of beautiful people, it was I was into it.
Yeah, I liked that scene, and the scene when they go out investigating, and the scene where James ends up using the Guardian Shield. I thought that was great.
I think my favorite part of that Guardian Shield scene was that afterwards, Lena looks like she does not care at all that she was literally almost just murdered. And she was like, oh yeah, my quarterly
assassination attempt.
Oh my God, it made me laugh so hard, because it's like, I love those little moments when the show, like the Fort Ross people, where the show can kind of wink at itself.
The forgotten Fort Ross.
Lena has been almost assassinated like 10 times this season alone.
Yeah, so she played that pretty cool. So I do agree with you that if they played up more of those kinds of moments and then got to the romance, then I probably would have bought it a little more. But them just kissing out of nowhere with the I guess they were trying to build to it throughout the episode, but with the, hey, y'all have a lot of chemistry, you should kiss under the mistletoe. I guess they thought that they earned it, but I guess for me, I didn't think that they did.
Yeah, I was like, is it because they were nice to each other at the end of that one episode? Is that what I'm like? Was that the development that I feel like I missed? Because it was, I felt like all the other characters had seen half of season of a show I hadn't watched yet.
Well, I guess we'll have to see what happens with James and Lena as the story progresses. Like I said, I can be on board. I can go with it. I can follow it wherever it goes. It just, as of this week's episode, I was like, I don't know about this. But there was a moment in that scene where they poured the drinks and then they kiss. I don't know. This is just this probably was just me watching it, but there was a moment where the camera like pan. I don't know if it was from the desk or to the desk with James in the frame, and I just thought it was very suggestive about James in the desk, and it made me laugh. It made me laugh. So I was
well, you know what? That's where they might have been going underneath later.
Okay,
so.
All right. Let's not get into some scandalous speculation here.
Could you imagine if he was like, I think we should go back to my place, and then he walks over and disappears underneath the desk? I feel like that romance could then completely be over in one episode. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna go. My phone just rang. And she like runs out.
Or the flip side of it, she could be totally into it. And then,
you never know.
The rest of the episodes of season 3 is just Lena and James hanging out underneath the desk. Just
watching
hanging out.
TV, just chilling, cuddling.
So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that there was, a James in the desk shot. I thought maybe that was purposeful, but who knows? Could have just been
shout out.
Could have just been me.
I mean, that if that's not the real true love of this show, is James and his desk, and
it's not even his desk anymore.
It's been taken over.
Technically it's Lena's desk now.
That's true. Maybe he's just trying to get back to that desk.
Maybe
this is the love triangle, Rebecca.
This would be the best all-time love triangle if that was the case. I would be in support of this. Let's see how that plays out. I actually, in my head, I just want to pretend that that's the way things are going, and we'll see if it plays out. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about some overall thoughts. So, Morgan, what did you think about this episode as a whole?
I liked it a lot. I thought the rain stuff was really good, and I think it cues up the back half of the season really well. I'm really excited to come back from the break and see what's going to happen. I think that they played that the Samantha and Ruby, that storyline over the first half of the season really well, where you care about them, because I can sometimes be that jerk that's when a new character is introduced and there's a lot of emphasis on the new character, I could be the person who's I don't like them, let's go back to the old characters. But I think that I like that the way that they kind of integrated her into the cast and made you care about what was going on with her and Ruby. And I think that it's going to play really well in the back half of the season. And I really loved the fight between her and Supergirl. I thought there was some big stakes in that. The Mon-El stuff was a little bit whatever, but again, it's because I tend to be I tend to skew Mon negative. So I just kind of think Kara, this is a blessing in disguise. And once you get past this little bump in the road, you're gonna see that this worked out for you.
This was for the best.
This is for the best. But I liked how it focused on her her emotions versus the drama of the situation. And also Morgan Edge was in this episode.
He was.
Morgan's got to stick together. I also want a lead line panic room, and I'm gonna install one in my place.
That was pretty smart of him. I can't lie. Lead line. Yeah. He was thinking things through, thinking ahead.
He was a couple steps ahead, as always. I also like that he just straight up told Lena about how he almost killed her the last time. He was just like, whoops, sorry about that. I hope you're not still mad. I was like, you know what, Morgan, you're a creep, but also respect.
Well, they both weren't playing around with the fact that they both tried to kill each other. When she comes in, and he's like, I didn't recognize you without your 38. So they've both tried to physically harm each
Everyone's made a couple murder mistakes in this room.
So yeah, I do enjoy their banter because they both really hate each other, and it does make for some good comedy. I was laughing about Morgan Edge because I couldn't decide what was going on up top on his head.
Oh, with the hair. What was going on? Had he had like a really hard night and day and night?
I didn't know if like he was prepping for the Christmas party by throwing his own Christmas party ahead of time. Like, what was happening?
I feel like he decided as the boss that he should try every different kind of alcohol they were going to serve.
I was just really confused by his hair reminded me, okay, this is one of my all-time favorite 30 Rock episodes. Greenzo, there's an episode called Greenzo, and Kenneth the Page, throws this crazy party at his house, and everything is just nuts. Everyone goes crazy. And then the next day, Jack Donaghy's hair is just like all the way up. And that's the way Morgan Edge reminded me of Jack Donaghy after Kenneth the Page's party. That's what I thought about. So if you want to put that image in your brain, that's how I pictured Morgan Edge in this episode, because his hair was hilarious. So I just imagined he was maybe partying a little too hard, and his hair got crazy. But I didn't notice it. I really liked this episode. I thought it was a great way to end the first half of the season, way to go out before the what do they call them now? The winter breaks?
Yeah, I think winter break.
I thought the fights were big and impactful. Like it was a big moment that Supergirl and Reign were fighting, and I thought that was something that it should have been. It shouldn't have been a small little scuffle. It should have been this huge fight that went on all these places. So I was glad to see that they took that seriously, and I liked all of the emotional stuff that Kara was having to deal with, and I did like the Samantha Ruby stuff because it sort of pulls at you because you want them to be happy, or at least I do. I want them to be happy, but I know that there's something that might come between them that might not be the case. It might not be possible, and it's really hard to sit there and watch because I don't know what's going to happen with them. So I really liked all of that, and I did like all of the sort of Christian allegorical references with God and the devil. Like I said, I enjoy all of that kind of stuff because it's a little smarter for Supergirl. They've raised the bar on some of the writing, I think, this season, and I really have enjoyed that. I've really liked seeing how, as you mentioned, the stakes have been raised, and I think that sometimes with these CW shows, people die and come back all the time, and they have 52, well, now I guess 53 Earths with Earth X, and sometimes it's hard for me to imagine the stakes in a world like that where you can die and come back and have all of these different counterparts who look just like you, who might be a little different, but they look just like you. There's 52 of you existing. And so sometimes stakes don't seem like they exist. So it's nice to see that our hero can get badly beaten up and maybe die. It's nice to see that things can happen to pull people apart just because it makes for good story. It makes for a good story. It makes me guess. It makes me question and worry and be concerned for these characters. And so I think as a viewer, I really appreciate that a lot. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our discussion. But Morgan, let's find out what our listeners had to say about Reign.
Okay. So we got a tweet from @bman923. Said, I love the episode. Reign was scary, and the fight scene between her and Kara reminded me of when Superman fought Doomsday in the street in the comics and cartoon. I think Kara is going to need a lot of help in this fight. Odette is a fantastic choice for Reign. I also got a lot of those Doomsday kind of connections. Did you feel that? way?
Yeah,
Rebecca?
they especially from the comics, because in the comics they really rough up the streets of Metropolis, and things get really destroyed. At least with like in Batman v Superman, it's sort of contained to a small section. Although they do have that whole Heroes Park thing with the monument that gets destroyed. But yeah, a lot of destruction usually in those fights. So I think they did a good job of that in the way that they choreographed that on Supergirl.
At Truffle Munchies said, Rain's rise was the only silver lining of this episode. Instead of repairing the ship they were stuck in, Emra and Mon-El goofing around and overcompensating to appease Kara made me very, very upset. Oh, and James and Lena, excuse me while I put this wine away and cry. At Enrique B. Jr. said, that fight between Kara and Samantha was shot very well. Rain's brutality throughout would make Oliver Queen jealous. Wish Rain gave Kara a disability because she's still recovering from the events of Crisis on Earth X.
I don't know exactly what that means. Give her a disability.
I don't know either. Maybe, I don't know. Like maybe her, I mean, she was hurt pretty bad.
Oh, maybe if like she went to the hospital, at least she would recover a little bit and take a break, possibly. Because she definitely could use a break. She did, that crossover event was pretty trying on Kara. She was strapped to a table and villains threatened to cut her heart out. It was difficult.
Yeah, it wasn't a fun time for her in the crossover.
She was like, hey, let's go to Barry and Iris's wedding. That'll be a good time. It was rough.
It was not.
It was a little more involved than just going and singing a song in a church. But yeah, I would also echo how well this episode was shot. I was very impressed with Glenn Winter directed this episode, and some of his shots were very cinematic. And
he's a pro though. He's directed like literally everything, right?
He's done a whole bunch of these superhero shows, so he knows what he's doing in terms of trying to get the right angle for fights and the way fights should be edited, like some of the quick cuts during the stuff with Rain going after that gang. It was very Batman Begins-ish. So a lot of that was very effective, and the way he shot Rain, trying to make her look scary, I thought was very great. I thought it was wonderful.
At Patty Mello 20 said, Rain started as a vigilante that kills people, so she's basically Oliver Queen, right? This episode was weird. I don't know if I liked. Rain is really great, and I love Sam, but the rest was just not good. James and Lena, Mon-El and his wife, all just emoji throwing up. Which, by the way, in this Google document that I'm reading off of is huge. It's the biggest emoji throwing up I've ever seen, and it is disturbing.
When you copy and paste from Twitter, it just makes them big. Also, that emoji apparently has the title "face vomiting."
Well, it's an accurate title. It's what it is doing. And then the tweet ends, "Hope Kara is okay." At Kaya_Matsui said, wait, if Mon-El and Saturn Girl are from the future, wouldn't they already know about Rain? That made no sense to me because Eobard Thawne said many times that the heroes were in the history books back in Earth 1. Shouldn't they also be in the books in Earth 38? Weird.
I think they do know about Rain. But it's hard to tell what they know.
I kind of got the impression that they were so far in the future that it would be like, I don't know, that maybe they didn't know about it because it's like, what year are they from?
They're from the 31st century.
Yeah, that's a while. That's a while in the future.
Yes, that they are significantly in the future. I don't know. I just got this vibe, like especially in this episode when Kara/Supergirl is on the table. They're trying to resuscitate her back to life, I guess. And Imra says she's going to be okay. And I sort of took that as, does she know she's going to be okay?
That's a point, though. Yeah. I mean, something as big as like Supergirl dying, I think would be in the history.
Yeah.
Like even like, you know, way in the future, you would still know about that. So I hadn't thought about it when I was watching the episode, but I could definitely, I think, read that scene like, not in a mean way, but like, you know, she's going to be okay. Because this is like, you know, not when she dies.
Right.
So at Madtown Davidson said, in a vacuum, I would have preferred a more cheerful, goofy holiday episode, but I understand that they've got to set up the season's big bad. The end fight was really impressive on a TV budget, I thought. Mostly, I'm just worried about Ruby. If anything happens to Ruby, I quit. Also, can we please start a poll on how long it will take the writers to completely drop the James Lena thing like a hot potato? I say 3 episodes. By episode 12, James will be dating a yoga instructor who is secretly an alien assassin sent by shadowy forces to kill Guardian. I mean, I would watch that episode.
Where is that episode?
Why is that not an episode? I think we're pitching this right now. Like, we're pitching this hard.
I think that would be awesome to watch. Let's make that happen.
Let's do it. Okay. At Bin Hill Dang said, holy cow, what an ending. I felt every punch that Rain threw at Supergirl. Where was Superman?
I don't know.
He's really busy. He's got stuff. He's got stuff and things.
He doesn't show up when things are rough sometimes. He just, I guess he's got other things going on.
I think it would have been funny if he kind of showed up and like something fell on him and we just saw his boots for the rest of the episode.
Classic.
Season 1 memories. Our final tweet is from at Chris Fundalinsky. She said, that was an epic fight between Supergirl and Rain. Am I the only one that gets amused by how they tried to make rubble around Kara on the street look like a crater when it's really not?
Well, I think they did a pretty good job of trying to make it look like it really happened.
Oh, also, I missed 2 of her emojis, even though they are the biggest emojis I've ever seen. One is a giant heart and one is a thumbs up. So she liked that fight.
A giant thumbs up.
It's a real big thumbs up.
I don't know. Google Docs all of a sudden wanted to make that really big. I guess they've done some updates to their interface. But yeah, no, I think they did a good job of trying to make it look like the impact of Supergirl and Rain was heavy and hard hitting, and so I guess I didn't get amused by it. I guess I was more so impressed by the way they tried to make it look like a real fight location. But the whole time that they were fighting, I was like, why are these people not running away? Like, yeah, go away. Get away from them. Why are you standing and watching this happen? I was very concerned for the public. Even Supergirl had to be like, no, stay away from this. Like, why was that little girl trying to jump into action like she was going to help? These people are crazy.
You would think by this point in living in a city with Supergirl that they would see one of these things happen and immediately be like, goodbye.
You would think they would have learned what
this
to do in
only happens to them on a weekly basis.
Oh, well, I guess sometimes you just want to, it's like a traffic accident.
Yeah, you just gotta, a lot of rubbernecking.
Slow down and watch it. But yeah, I would be running. I would be like, I will see y'all later. Gotta get out of here. But to be fair, where would they go? Because even if they went somewhere, they could have taken that fight to another location.
Yeah,
you don't know where they're gonna go. I don't know. I guess I think I'm overthinking this, but the people of National City maybe need to have a plan in place, I think, is what I'm saying.
I think they all need a lead-lined
Yes, they all need a lead-lined panic room in every building. That's what should happen. All right. Well, I guess that's going to take care of our tweets, but we have an email from Susan who writes, quote, after watching this week, my overall reaction is kudos to the producers, cast, and crew for an excellent first, not quite half of the season, and a great fall finale. Even though I am not steeped in the comic mythology and never got particularly excited about the concept of Rain, I thought this episode was well done and sets up a very interesting rest of the season. At the same time, I am a little sad for what might have been. It seems as if Sam's evolution into Rain suddenly jumped 5 steps forward this week. Because I do not watch any of the other CW shows, the crossover does nothing for me. It is a standalone episode where I have no idea what is going on with most of the characters. And I can't help but think if it weren't for that stunt and all of the scheduling challenges necessary to make it happen, there would have been at least 2 more episodes that would have been available for showing more of the slow transformation from Sam to Rain. Instead, we were fed a few repetitive scenes with annoying Ruby finding Sam spacing out, and suddenly Rain shows up and defeats Supergirl. As a viewer, I'm still not sure exactly how that happened or why. But very much looking forward to how the rest of the characters discover and respond when there starts to be signs pointing to Sam being Rain. To the ultimate defeat of Rain, which I assume will shortly be followed by Mon-El flying off, hopefully never to be seen again. Wow, that's harsh. That's harsh, Susan.
Rough.
And to the producers, continuing to recognize and respect that heart of the show is that the heart of the show is the Alex Kara sister relationship, which got lost last season, unquote. Well, thank you for writing in, Susan. I think that is very possible that the crossover, it might have put some kinks into the storytelling this season. I don't know, but it is possible that maybe they did have to make things a little quicker, maybe had to get to there a little faster. I don't know, but I do agree that it is a little fast. They did have to go a couple of extra steps.
Yeah, I do agree that it feels like they could have paced the Sam stuff out a couple more episodes or something. I blame the crossover for why we never found out Jean's shocking secret.
I'm going to blame all of this on Oliver and Felicity. They are the reason. They are the reason.
Accurate. What if Jean was about to tell his shocking secret and up pops Oliver and Felicity and they just steal all the thunder again. They tell oxygen out of that room.
they tell all of their secrets instead.
They tell yes, exactly. And he's like, but I still have this secret, and no one cares anymore because they're just tired of hearing secrets.
That's what happened, and that's why we will never know what his secret is. So we're just gonna. I personally, I'm going to blame them for things being sped up. But I will say that I think it's an interesting choice, having looked back on it, because now for the rest of the season, I'm wondering what they're going to do with Rain. Are they going to continue to have her go in and out of Sam being Rain, or is she just going to be Rain and that's just the way they're going to play it out for the rest of the season? I'm curious. At least it has my attention. I'm curious to see what they're going to do, because they could have just played it to where her development over the course of the season got her to be Rain, which would have been the thing that I would have thought that they were going to do. So maybe they have a twist in there that's going to surprise us. Yeah,
I'm really interested to see where they go with that storyline. So we have an email from the 108th Sage, who writes, just dropping in a bit of info on the original Crisis on Earth X. Back in Justice League of America's number 107 to 108, this crossover introduced some of the characters that DC had acquired from Quality Comics, like Uncle Sam, literally the living embodiment of the American spirit / dream. The Human Bomb, he had to wear a hazmat suit because his touch was explosive. The Ray, whose descendant went on to some prominence in the 90s. Phantom Lady, Sandra Knight, who was retconned into the cousin of Starman, Ted Knight, by the master of the retcon, Roy Thomas, in his seminal work, The All-Star Squadron, and Dollman, the original diminutive hero. They were the resistance on Earth X, the world where the Nazis had won, which is where they got the team name they were known as thereafter, the Freedom Fighters. An interesting tidbit is that originally that Earth was to be called Earth Swastika Symbol. Oh, but then I'm sorry, that's a terrible idea.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Okay, but then editor Julius Schwartz put his foot down. While I'm editor, there will be no such thing. This was a smart person.
Good call.
They flipped the symbol on its rear and chopped off its arms, leaving us with an X. Hope this was informative and not too geeky, and I hope you all enjoyed the crossover.
I certainly did not know any of that, so I appreciate you sharing that information. I actually want to go back and read these issues and see more about this Earth and this storyline, because I didn't know much about it until the crossover was announced. So
that was really interesting.
Yes, very, very cool. So if you are into learning any more about the Freedom Fighters and some of this world of Earth X, It looks like Justice League of America number 107 and 108 is where we should start. So thank you for that information. And it's not too geeky. I don't think anything would be too geeky for us. We talk about Star-Czar and robot hands. We're in it deep on this podcast.
We have a pretty high bar.
Yeah. So anything geeky you want to share, pass it on. Well, and before we wrap up our feedback, we have some Snap Judgment questions sent in by a listener named Gina. In the game of Snap Judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended, and explanations are unnecessary. So, Morgan, these are like...
Ooh.
I don't want to hype them up, but they're some of the most difficult Snap Judgments I think we've ever gotten.
These are some tough ones.
Be prepared. Get yourself ready. The first one, Supergirl versus Reign or Supergirl versus Overgirl?
I'm going to go Supergirl versus Overgirl.
I think I'm going to go Supergirl versus Reign.
Nice.
That was tough.
That is tough.
This is also a tough / hilarious one. So Overgirl / Dark Arrow. So Overgirl and Dark Arrow or Lena and James.
Okay. I'm going to go Overgirl and Dark Arrow because I feel like I already kind of outed myself on Twitter as being weirdly into it.
I'm going to say Overgirl and Dark Arrow too.
And I also feel I'm comfortable. You can judge me. I don't get it either. The heart wants what it wants.
I guess we will both be judged, but we don't need to explain ourselves. This is a Snap Judgment. You just say what you just say what you feel. No need to explain. The next one is a holiday dinner with John and Mirren, or one with Kara, Alex, and Eliza.
Oh God. You know what? I'm going to go John and Mirren because of all that brown water.
I am going to go Danvers. I'm going to go Kara, Alex, and Eliza on this one.
Solid choice.
And our final one, which this is the most important question.
Okay.
That we could be asked on Supergirl Radio. And I'm going to wait until that plane flies over my house because this is the most important question.
It is. This answer is gonna reveal some stuff.
This is going to solve everyone's problems in the history of time. Morgan.
Yes.
Eggnog or hot chocolate with marshmallows?
Hot chocolate with marshmallows.
I'm gonna go eggnog.
No judgments on your Snap Judgments.
We are on different sides of a divide now.
We have made choices, and we're gonna have to stick
out my enemy.
Stick to those choices. Okay, well, thank you, Gina, for sending in those Snap Judgments.
Those are good.
Always a lot of fun. Great Snap Judgment questions. But I think that's going to do it for all of our thoughts and all of our feedback on the episode Reign. If you'd like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can find us on Google Play and iHeartRadio. We have a playlist on Spotify, so we're definitely going to have to put that Hall & Oates Christmas song that Jean just had to keep playing for them at that holiday party, and nobody was having it.
So cute.
So we're definitely going to put that on so you can listen to it as much as you want. We are also listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans, and we are available on iTunes and Stitcher, so if you have some time, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review. Big thanks to a user named Aunt Taurus who left us a review on iTunes. Thank you so much for that review. There's mention in the review of wanting a Brian the Alien spinoff podcast. We'll give it some consideration.
I also want to say that this is one of my favorite reviews just because the title of it is Snap, Snap, Snap.
So hitting all of our buttons with this review, really.
Yeah, really. Just shameless pandering, and we love it.
So thank you for that. And if you need any of these links that I've mentioned, or you need help finding any of these things that we have mentioned and how to find us, you can always go to the right side of the page over at supergirlradio.com, and you can find those links there.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you also like Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, iZombie, classic DC TV shows, and the upcoming Black Lightning, Krypton, and Titan shows, you can subscribe to DC TV Podcasts on iTunes and follow at DC TV Podcasts on Twitter and like DC TV Podcasts on Facebook.
Well done.
I know.
It's just flowing naturally now.
I took the crossover off just to practice that.
Well, it was worth it. Nailed it. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at DerbyKid. That's DERBYKID. I'm still on hiatus because I kind of like life without Twitter.
It's good.
It's a good life. But if you did have any questions for me, you can still at me, and I will respond because I try to be a kind and thoughtful person. So I'm not going to ignore you. So you can contact me on Twitter at DerbyKid if that is what you would like to do. You can also follow me on Instagram at the DerbyKid. That's THEDERBYKID. I tried to take some pictures there. Just took a trip to New York City. So if you want to see my trip pictures, I took a bunch, so you can see them there. You can also see some videos of mine that I've shot and edited over at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. That's DUCKMILKPROD. Make sure I got all of that out. I'm also a contributor to JLU Podcast. We discuss all of the DCEU movies, the DC films, if you want to call them that, because there is no official name, but I'm going to go with DCEU for now. But we are analyzing Wonder Woman and Justice League, so if you want to go check that out, you can find us at jluniverse.podomatic.com.
And you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Mojotastic. That's MOJOTASTIC. I'm also on Instagram as the same thing if you want to know how long my brunches are. Too long sometimes. Too long last weekend. And you can also find me as a co-host of the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. We have been sort of mystery dropping our episodes this season because one of my co-hosts is in a show in San Diego, which if you are in the San Diego area and want to see Into the Woods, you should definitely go see that. But I think we're planning on recording early next week or sometime this weekend to get an episode out about the kind of a combo, talking a little bit about the crossover, and then mostly about the finale that aired, the winter finale. So you should check that out. Whether you watch Legends of Tomorrow or not, we don't discriminate. You can just listen to the podcast.
And maybe I would guess you guys would be talking about Alex Danvers and Sarah Lance.
Yeah, we might. There might be a little bit of that. There might be a whole lot of that.
might be some Supergirl talk on Legends of Tomorrow.
Exactly. Because I loved that whole part of the crossover. That was like perfect.
So even if you don't watch the show, but you know about that,
yeah,
you could still listen.
You can just jump right in.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this entire episode on Rain. But if you want to hang out for a quick spoiler section, we don't have an official description of the episode that's happening in January, but we do have a trailer, so we'll probably talk about that. So you can hang out with us in the spoiler section for that. We'll be doing that right after our theme music. But until then, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
I'm still Morgan Glennon.
And if you hear Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree playing at your office holiday party,
you might want to know where the exits are.
with me, Kara. Stay with me.
Rain defeated you.
Rain is still out there. People are dying. I have to wake up.
Supergirl. All new episodes return Monday, January 15th on the CW.
And we are back. And what you just heard was the audio for what's coming up on Supergirl. The next episode is called Legion of Superheroes. We don't have an official episode description for this episode yet, but we do have a trailer for it. So, Morgan, what are your thoughts on seeing what's coming up for Supergirl when she comes back in January?
I think the trailer was pretty exciting. I think it looks a little bit like maybe Kara might be a little bit MIA for a little bit of the episode while she's recovering, and we see Rain in the Catco building, which seems bad for their insurance premiums. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know who is insuring that building, but it's got to be sky high.
Well, they've got to fix the roof.
Yeah, I mean, what if she just came in from that hole in the roof? What if she was like, I don't want to be judgmental, but you haven't fixed that yet. So I'm just
you haven't fixed it. You haven't fixed that elevator situation. You also had a fire set to the roof with an S shield symbol on top of it. You have some issues, Catco. Your building was falling apart last season with the Daxamites invading, and you just got it recovered, and now you have a bunch of holes and fires. Come on.
I just want one of the next episodes to be like Lena taking Kara aside and being like, we're just going to have to garnish your wages until Supergirl stops destroying this building, and winks at her.
What if the twist of Rain being in Catco is that she doesn't destroy anything? What if she comes in and she just uses the door?
What if she comes in and she's got a toolbox under her arm and she was like, I was just repaving the roof.
So helpful. So nice, Rain. For you to fix. Yeah, that would be a twist.
I was excited to see the Legion. I don't know a ton about the Legion, but I saw the rings and I was like, ooh, I don't know what that's going to be about.
There were 3 hands, I think, in there. So
yeah.
So I wonder if another person is going to wake up. We just know about Mon-El and Imra.
Yeah, that's true. But there are more people in their little ship, right?
Yeah, some people are still cooking in there.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, that all looks really, really pretty good. I'm very excited to see if we get another Legion member, if we get another Legionnaire. Who will that be? Because I'm personally hoping for. I think it's Bouncing Boy. Is that the character's name?
What?
His
is that a real?
I think it's a.
That's a real.
Let me make sure
person?
I've got his name right.
Please let you be correct there.
Yeah, it is Bouncing Boy. Bouncing Boy is a member of the Legion of Superheroes. He turns into a ball.
Wow. Oh, wow. I looked him up. Oh, my God. I love him.
I mean, Brainiac 5 would be nice. Lightning Lad would be nice.
It was they're facing off against Rain. It's like, we've got Supergirl. We've got Mon-El. We've got Bouncing Boy.
I'm just saying he's a really underrated member of the Legion of Superheroes, and I would like to see him get his due.
And I think we could use a little bit of that. We could use a little bit of laughter.
So I'm just that's who I'm crossing my fingers for. But hopefully we'll get some more information on who is in the ship, who is still there, because there were several of them. I think there were at least 5 or 6 to my recollection. So there could be a whole bunch of people in there. So we'll have to see if they unleash all of them in the next episode, or if they just kind of tease them out over the course of the season. But yeah, it looks awesome. I'm excited about the Legion. I'm excited about Rain fixing Catco. And I'm curious about what's going to happen with Kara, because she says something in the trailer about, I need to wake up. And I thought that was really cool, because the idea of waking up seems to be something that is a continual thread that has gone on throughout this season. You know, we got Mon-El telling Kara to wake up and we've had the Legionnaires waking up from the ship. We've had Sam not being able to sleep. And so there's just this kind of this idea of sleep and dreams going on. And so, I don't know, I think that's really cool that they've taken it that far, that they've interwoven this idea of wake up into all of these different aspects of the season. So I'm excited to see where they take it next time around. And the next episode does come back, does air on January 15th in a new year. It will be 2018 when that happens. So I guess we don't get another episode of Supergirl until next year.
Ooh.
So that sounds like a long time to wait.
It does.
But it's just...
But it's not actually that long.
It's a little over a month as we record this. So it seems like a long time. But it'll go by pretty quickly, I think. So we'll have to see what happens when it comes back in the new year. Well, I guess that's going to do it for our spoiler section. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back next year with a new episode discussion next time on Supergirl Radio.